He never wore the imperial crown or became a royal concubine, but he managed to capture the hearts of countless literati who willingly wrote masterpieces for him. Even the emperor dug tunnels just to meet him. Who was this extraordinary woman? Was it merely his beauty that made people bow down to him? In this issue, let's explore the famous courtesan of the Northern Song dynasty, Li Shishi. Li Shishi, originally named Wang Shi, was born in the capital city of the Northern Song dynasty, Bianliang. His father made a living by dyeing cloth, but unfortunately, Wang Shi's mother passed away shortly after his birth. In order to support the young Wang Shi, his financially struggling father could only feed him cheap soy milk. Fortunately, Wang Shi was strong-willed and survived under his father's careful care. When Wang Shi turned 3 years old, according to local customs, children were sent to temples for foster care to ensure a better livelihood. Thus, his father sent him to the Baoguang temple in the vicinity. When the benevolent old monk patted his head, he suddenly stopped crying. The old monk felt that he resembled a Buddhist disciple, and since Buddhist disciples were called Shi, he was named Wang Shishi. At the age of 4, his father was imprisoned for a crime, and he ended up on the streets. Li Mama, who ran a brothel at the time, recognized his potential as a beauty and adopted him, changing his name to Li Shishi. She also taught him music, chess, calligraphy, painting, singing, and dancing, and Li Shishi himself was intelligent and talented, with exceptional artistic abilities. As Li Shishi grew up, he blossomed into a graceful individual, excelling in poetry and music. He possessed both beauty and talent, quickly gaining fame in the capital city. Countless literati, royal members, and nobles flocked to him. Qin Guan, one of the 4 masters of the Su school, Yan Jidao, representative of the Northern Song's elegant style, and Zhou Bangyan, a prominent figure in the art of song ci, all bowed down before Li Shishi's pomegranate skirt. Yan Jidao once wrote the poem Xingchazi to describe his beauty. Distant mountain eyebrows are long, slender willow waist is delicate. After finishing the makeup, standing in the spring breeze, a smile that's worth 1,000 pieces of gold. When returning to Fengcheng, telling the story to the brothel path. Having seen the flowers of Yingchuan, none compare to Shishi's beauty. As for Zhou Bangyan, he felt that meeting Li Shishi was a missed encounter. He immediately wrote a poem, Yulan Air, to capture his impression of Li Shishi. Light makeup and a new dress, exquisite charm, naturally unique. Both parties are well known. Even though we just met, the connection feels familiar. The smoke from the incense burner, half asleep and half awake, fragrance, permeates the air. It relies on this encounter, otherwise, life would be insufficient. Due to his outstanding appearance and skills, Li Shishi's fame grew. Not only was he beloved by literati and scholars, but even the current emperor of the Song dynasty, Huizong, came in disguise just to catch a glimpse of him. Huizong was known for his talents in various fields, but was criticized for his lack of governing abilities. From a young age, he enjoyed calligraphy, painting, and had a keen interest in exotic plants, rare stones, and animals. He was particularly gifted in calligraphy and is known for creating the slender gold script, which differed significantly from traditional Jin and Tang scripts, showcasing its unique personality. In the field of painting, his bird and flower paintings were exceptional, with the renowned Ruwei Hei II, picture of auspicious cranes, now housed in the Liaoning Provincial Museum, being highly praised for its composition and technique. The record-breaking auction of his painting Jiao Shenzhen Qin II, painting of rare birds, fetched over $8 million, setting a new record for Chinese painting auctions. While Huizong had notable achievements in art, he lacked interest in political affairs, leading to the downfall of the Northern Song dynasty. Tired of the pleasures of the palace, Huizong became deeply interested in Li Shishi and wished to have a close encounter with him. With the help of eunuch Zhang Zhai, Huizong disguised himself as a wealthy merchant named Zhao Yi and finally met Li Shishi after much effort. Li Shishi, dressed in white, possessed the beauty of jade and autumn water, with a face like a hibiscus and eyebrows like willows. This description of Li Shishi's appearance falls short of capturing his breathtaking beauty. Upon seeing Li Shishi, Huizong was captivated, while Li Shishi remained unaware of his true identity, considering him a regular guest. As before, Li Shishi played the guqin for this guest, and their connection was akin to meeting a like-minded individual. After playing an enchanting piece called Ping Sha Luo Yan on the guqin, Li Shishi's extraordinary musical talent caught Huizong's attention. This surprised Li Shishi, as she initially considered him an inexperienced merchant without literary refinement. Huizong admired Li Shishi's appearance, and Li Shishi appreciated Huizong's talents, allowing them to find common ground. To facilitate their clandestine meetings and avoid detection, Huizong Upon the suggestion of Zhang Di, constructed a secret tunnel directly connecting to Li Shishir's residence. However, this secret was eventually discovered by other concubines. Once, during a palace banquet, Wei Fei quietly asked Emperor Huizong of Song, "What kind of girl from the Li family is it that makes your majesty so fond of her?" Huizong, straightforward as ever, replied, "Even if you and the other palace ladies wore ordinary clothes and stood together, he would distinguish you from the rest." In fact, before Emperor Huizong of Song, there was already a talented poet and expert in music named Zhou Banyan, who was highly regarded among the elegant poets. He had long been acquainted with Li Shishi, often engaging in scholarly discussions. Zhou Banyan, who was talented and highly accomplished, was greatly favored by Li Shishi. She admired his literary talent and enjoyed his company. Over time, their relationship grew increasingly intimate, and they became acquainted with each other. However, after Emperor Huizong of Song, Zhao Ji, appeared, their secret meetings could only take place when Zhao Ji was absent. One day, when Li Shishi heard that Emperor Huizong was ill, she thought he would not come anymore, so she made an appointment with Zhou Banyan. Unexpectedly, shortly after Zhou Banyan arrived, the ailing Emperor Huizong came. In a panic, Zhou Banyan quickly hid under the bed, listening to the commotion outside. When Emperor Huizong arrived, he brought fresh oranges from the new tribute of Jiangnan, and Li Shishi shared them with Zhou Banyan. At 3 in the morning, when Emperor Huizong was about to return to the palace, Li Shishi reminded him, "It's already late, and the ground is slippery with frost. Your Majesty should be careful." All of this was witnessed by Zhou Banyan, who felt a sourness in his heart that surpassed that of unripe oranges. After Emperor Huizong left, Zhou Banyan emerged from under the bed and immediately composed a new song called Young Journey based on what he had heard. He presented it to Li Shishi, and the lyrics went as follows. "The double-edged sword shines like water, Wuyan salt outshines the snow. Delicate hands peel the fresh orange. The brocade curtain is still warm, the animal-shaped incense lingers, we sit together, playing the shing. Whispering low, asking who stays overnight, it's already the third watch on the city wall. The horse slips on the thick frost, it's better to rest, as few people travel." For some reason, Li Shishi sang this song to Emperor Huizong. He immediately recognized that the lyrics expressed the scene from their secret meeting a few days earlier. How could outsiders know about it, and who was the author of the song? Under Emperor Huizong's persistent questioning, Li Shishi finally told him about her other acquaintance, the talented poet Zhou Banyan, who was the author of the song. Emperor Huizong was furious upon learning this and, in a fit of anger, falsely accused Zhou Banyan of crimes and banished him from the capital. On the day of Zhou Banyan's exile, Li Shishi went to bid him farewell. When she returned, she happened to encounter Emperor Huizong, who was moved by her tearful appearance. At that moment, Li Shishi sang a new song to Emperor Huizong. It was the farewell song Prince of Lanling, composed by Zhou Banyan before his departure. This song expressed the sorrow of parting, with intricate and profound verses that carried countless thoughts and emotions, leaving a lasting impression. After hearing this song, the sensitive Emperor Huizong was deeply touched. He immediately ordered Zhou Banyan's pardon and appointed him to a position responsible for managing the national music and dance institutions. However, less than a year later, Zhou Banyan passed away due to illness. Several years later, the Jin army's iron cavalry breached the city of Kaifeng. Emperor Huizong, weak and ineffectual, continuously ceded territory and paid reparations. Even his own son, Emperor Qinzong of Song, and the palace women became prisoners. In November 1126, faced with the fierce attacks of the Jin army and the empty state treasury, the soldiers of the Song dynasty, lacking resources, had no choice but to raise funds from the people. During this time of national collapse and destruction, Li Shishi, as a skilled singer, stepped forward and donated all the money rewarded to her by Emperor Huizong and her accumulated savings, hoping to turn the tide and save the nation. After making the donation, Li Shishi became a Taoist nun. When the Jin army completely surrounded the city of Kaifeng, Emperor Taizong of Jin had already heard of Li Shishi's name and specially ordered her to be brought back. The Jin army commander ordered a citywide search, but Li Shishi could not be found for several consecutive days. Finally, under the leadership of the traitor Zhang Bangchong, Li Shishi was discovered. She was presented to the Jin army commander, but even in that situation, Li Shishi remained composed. She told him that, as she was dressed in Taoist robes, it was inconvenient for her to meet him and requested some time to freshen up. After Li Shishi finished washing and dressing, she stood before the Jin army commander and resolutely removed the golden hairpin from her head. With determination, she stabbed herself in the throat with it. However, the force was too strong, and the hairpin broke into 2 pieces. Li Shishi immediately picked up the broken hairpin and swallowed it before her death. Just before her death, Li Shishi cursed Zhang Bangcheng on the spot, saying, "I am just a courtesan who received the emperor's favor and patronage. I am willing to repay the emperor's kindness with my life." What grievances did the great Song dynasty have against you high officials? You seek personal glory, commit evil deeds, and willingly destroy the ancestral temple. But now you cling to life and pander to others, using me as your gift of flattery. I will not let you succeed. With these words, she died on the spot. Thus, a famous courtesan ended her life in such a dramatic and resolute manner. Women like Li Shishi were treated as playthings throughout their lives, disposable in times of peace. They were men's playthings. However, during times of national crisis and peril, they willingly exerted their strength to defend the dignity of their motherland. Such a sense of righteousness cannot be summed up by a mere courtesan. As Lu Xun once said, throughout history, we have had people who worked diligently, fought desperately, pleaded for the people, and sacrificed themselves for justice. I believe that among these people, Li Shishi, despite her humble background, was someone with great aspirations. Like the heroes who have served our country for thousands of years, she is the backbone of China.